Hello everybody and welcome to another video from me, Bev, the owner and designer of all things Uniko. Thank you for joining me today. So yesterday on social media I shared this card here where I've used our stencil layering Bauhaus blocks, and I also combined it with the background block mod builder. And if I just tilt this slightly, hopefully you'll see how I created this sort of spotlight raised effect and combining the stencil and the stamp. So the stencil, if I can quickly find where I put some, I can show you the 3 layers. I'll show you mine that I've used, and obviously I haven't cleaned them here. These are the colours that I am using today. So the stencils come in 3 layers. I'll just bring this in because I've already stenciled one layer already today, and here I'll just quickly show you the 3 layers. There are other videos on the YouTube channel here, on Uniko Studios YouTube channel, showing how this stencil works. And it's super easy. And obviously you can do 3 colours to get this lovely effect. So in my posts yesterday, I mentioned how the Mod Background Builder stamp, which is still on my stamp wheel from yesterday. This is the stamp and this is the stencil. So the stencil originally came out first and is quite not hugely bigger, but a little bit bigger than the stamp. And I did that purposefully, really, to give a little bit of offset difference, that you could combine them together, but it gave a little bit more interest rather than just providing a stamp the same size, because this is quite easy to colour, and so is this. Anyway, I mentioned in my post yesterday how you could probably combine the stencil if you didn't have the stamp. You could use the stencil instead with the same technique. So instead of using a stencil and a stamp, you could use 2 stencils. So I thought I would do a little video showing the process as to how I created my card yesterday. So what I went and did before I even got started yesterday is I marked the center points down my stencil, and the way I did that was by this line here. I marked it, and then when I had a look putting the design together from a previous card, I found that this here is the central line here. So then I marked here and here, and today I've done the same on this stencil. I've literally just lined it up here on a grid and I've just marked. This just helps me if I'm being a little bit OCD and want my image in a right slap bang in the middle of my card. So as I said, I went ahead and already stenciled 1 panel. You can see here that I've also marked the center points down each side of my card that I am stenciling onto, and you can just go ahead and rub it out when you're done, which is super easy. So for this technique you need 2 stenciled panels, and you need that image to be in exactly the same place for it to work, so you can do this spotlight effect. So I chose a colour scheme that has a bit of an autumnal feel today. It's very autumnal outside here today, very grim and wet, but but hopefully I've chosen some bright colours as well that will add a bit of cheer to the day. So I've chosen Honeycomb, Spice Cider and Midnight. They are Concord and Ninth inks. So I will show you how this stencil works, and then we'll get to the next part of the card. Hopefully it won't take too long to show you, but hopefully it'll be fun as well at the same time. So I'm just lining up my pencil marks with the center here on the grid. Now this is inside my Alt New stamp wheel here, and it's like a tacky mat, so my cardstock will stick. And we're going to go ahead with this first layer of the Bauhaus stencil. Hopefully my head isn't knocking the camera. I do apologise if it is. Now theoretically you should be able to stick your stencil round, but there isn't a huge amount of overlap on this stencil, so I am just going to tape it into place so it doesn't move. And I didn't clean my stencils because I knew I was using the same colours, so I'm going to go ahead and use Honeycomb first. So the way I designed this stencil is that you can just go ahead and do your first colour all the way over, and each time you do a new layer, no colour will get onto any of the previous layers because they're blocked off. But it is a building stencil as well as a layering stencil, so you could fill a larger area if you wanted to, which I will explain when I've done 3 layers, just to anyone who hasn't seen this stencil in action before. So I'm trying to do my colours so they're fairly solid, nice and bright. This ink I think might need re-inking, this ink pad. It's not a yellow that I choose very often. It's a little bit more sort of like darker and mustardy sort of colour really. When I use yellow I prefer Buttercup, which is nice and bright, but I thought with this colour combo I would go for the Honeycomb, which has a little bit more of a dullness to it, I suppose. An autumnal feel, I should say. Anyway, so I'm just peeling off the tape here and then taking off this first stencil. And I'll move that to the side. Next, I tend to go with this layer. Now I have, as you can see, I haven't marked this stencil with the center point, mainly because you can line up where this stencil goes. You can see how it fits in. So the lines, you can get central, this square is masked off, and I look at lining up the polka dots at the bottom. So you don't need to mark the center point per se on this layer. And I'm just sticking my tape down again just to hold it in place while I do the Spice Cider colour. Now this is also this is an orange that I don't reach for very often, but I have reached for it a little bit more over the past couple of weeks. It's growing on me, these colours that I don't tend to reach for, and I am trying to look at different colour combos. Concord and Ninth, where I've got these, I got these inks from Seven Hills, I do apologise, but the brand of colour have their own website obviously as well in America. And if you go on their website and you search for colour combos, it'll bring up a page, and they have a handy page full of different combinations. They range from 4 colours up. I haven't seen many where there's just 3 colours. So what I did is I chose a colour combo and then just chose 3 colours out of that colour combo for my card. I'm not sure if I've done this combo before, to be honest. I might have, I can't quite remember. So there's the second layer, and then the third layer, again, I haven't marked the centre point, and I am literally just lining up where this card, where the design, it'll fill it in for me. And for this layer, I've chosen Midnight. And you're just going to infill the last colour and it'll have built the design. So it was a little bit of a shock to the system these past couple of days here in the northeast. The weather has just taken a sudden turn, but according to the weathermen, or the weather people I should say, we are supposed to get some sunshine this weekend, so I'm hoping that is true, because I am missing it already. And our chickens aren't impressed, with the sudden change in weather. So that is the third layer. Now if you wanted to, where I've just done a focal point, you could, you can see I've smudged it just a little bit, never mind. You could go in and fill the whole of your background, and what you would do is you'd just move, you can do it in a couple of ways. You could either move it here so it's up there and then fill it round, or you could go like I just did here, and then you'd get a different sort of pattern layout. So there's a couple of ways you can place it to then build your larger area. But as I said, there is videos in my feed on YouTube showing how this stencil moves about, and it's designed, this was one of the first builder stencils that I bought out, which shows how this pattern, the concept of building and creating a larger surface area with the pattern. So as I've just placed this here, because I have got a bit of a smudge mark on this one square here, I was just having a look to see where the design lines up, and I am going to be able to see the smudge marks, but if I use my other piece that I've already pre-stenciled, you won't be able to see them smudge marks. So the only thing I find is the cardstock does stick really well to this grid mat. So I have my little pokey tool that comes in useful for all sorts, and I've just used it to lift it off. Now I'm going to tuck this under my workspace just to help flatten the card out a little bit. It doesn't warp loads, but just a little bit. Now I rubbed them pencil marks off, and I wish I hadn't now. See, jumping ahead of myself as always. So I'm just lining it up. So my card, I have certain dimensions that stick in my head, and I use the same dimensions near enough all the time. So my card base measures 10.5 wide by 14 centimeters high. So I was just marking the middle, and I'm just going to place this back down inside the grid. And then I'm going to use this Mod Background Builder stencil, and again I'm lining it up, the little marks, with my grid, and I'm just going to secure it down again with some tape, just so it doesn't move. And instead of inking through with brushes, I am going to use a fine liner and draw round the shapes. So effectively creating the look of a stamped image. Now if I was super organised, I could have done step by steps, but hey ho. I could have pre-done this bit, but never mind. This sort of concept, I don't have the stamp to match the mod background builder circles, but you could use the stencil. It would be a little bit more tricky because the stencil does have the lines and a few smaller sections. I'm trying to think off the top of my head what stencils this technique would work for. There's the flower power ones, which are larger stencils that you could use in this way. They would look quite fun with the Bauhaus blocks stencil, the pattern. I do like combining geometrics with florals. And the mid-century modern shapes would work quite nicely as well. So I'm just going around a couple of times, just making sure that I get a nice outline. So this technique and using this design in particular is a little bit time consuming, especially with the fussy cutting. So if fussy cutting isn't your thing, it might be a bit tricky or not as fun for you, but I do like fussy cutting, so I enjoyed making this card. I had the patience to do it yesterday. It was an idea that came to me. I didn't know if it would work or not, whether it would look good or not, and I just thought, right, I'm just going to give it a go, and I was really pleased with how it turned out. And as I say, it wasn't until I was typing my post yesterday on social media, I thought, oh well, if you didn't have the stamp, you could do it with the stencil, and these leaves in this mod background builder are a little bit bigger to cut out, not ever so. But it's just a fun way of combining products and just getting a little bit more for your money out of them, really. Those that know me, I do like trying to get the most out of products and how they can be combined together to create more options. Like myself, craft supplies are an investment, and you want to make sure that they're versatile, and that's when I'm designing things, I try to think about that. And also when I'm creating inspiration, I try and think about that as well. So if you haven't been on any of Uniko's social media this week so far, you might have missed that we have an end of summer sale. I need to make room for some new products coming this autumn. I've got a couple of stencils coming out later this month, and then I will have some stamps coming out in October, probably towards the end of October now. I'll do my best. It's taken me a few days to get back into the swing of things, post summer holidays here, post the Beans' birthdays, so yeah, but it's nice to be back in the studio and able to concentrate. So there, I've just done all the lines, as you can see. Just move that stencil out the way. I need my tool again just to lift this off. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get our sharp scissors and we're going to start cutting. So this is where I think maybe I should have done I should have pre-done some of this. So what I'm going to do is just cut off some of the excess first. Now, I was quite worried, and I did this in stages yesterday, that I wouldn't be able to match up each of the little leaves, but it was actually quite easy. So I'm going to do all the cutting, and this is maybe where I need to learn to edit and speed up my videos as well. But hey ho, so hopefully this isn't too boring for you. I need to find something else to talk about with you. So in other news, shows, as you know, I do quite a few shows now, but the first show I started off with 9-ish years ago, I think now, when I worked it out, was the one over at Port Sunlight. Originally it was called Happy Stampers when I first started doing the show, and it was the show of the year. It really was. I loved going back. I loved seeing the same faces, and it used to be quite hard to get a ticket. Once you were on the mailing list to get a ticket, it was quite hard to get one after that, if you weren't on the mailing list. And yeah, it was one of the shows of the year, and very popular, and it had such a great range of paper crafting and stamping companies, and I always looked forward to it, and I still do. When it got taken over by the new organisers, and they took over a difficult time, really. It was post pandemic, and it's taken a while for things to get off the ground and get things going, but each time I did it, it was getting better and better, and I was meeting new people as well. Tickets weren't as hard to get hold of, but it was still like super busy. Anyway, it's been cancelled for the foreseeable this year and for the foreseeable future. I'm watching this space to see if anyone takes over the organising of a show there, because it was such a lovely venue as well. So I'm a little disappointed about that show, but I have got 2 other shows to keep me busy. The first one is on October the 6th, and that will be over in Lincoln at the Lincolnshire Showground. That is with Craftorama. It's a fairly new show, I think. We're into our 2nd year there. I could be wrong, it could be longer than that. We could be into the 3rd year, I can't remember now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to going back over there. And then after Lincoln, I have Bedfordshire, which takes me back to my home ground, stomping ground. I'm originally from Buckinghamshire, which is next to Bedfordshire. I lived there until 2002, and I moved up north. I still have some family down south as well, but doing a show, it's quite busy, so I don't really get time to go and see them. But yes, it'll be my 2nd time going back down to Bedford, so I'm looking forward to that. But I have one more show, and that is on the 14th of September. Now, I haven't got my own stand at the show, and when I don't have my own stand, I am usually with Dies to Die For, and I will be demoing some American products that I love, like Concord 9th, and I will have a small selection of Uniko with me over there. I usually take things that I've got restocked and popular items like the layering Bauhaus stencil that's just come back in stock, and the mod builders and things like that. But if you're going to that show, and as you know, I'll be there, and if there's anything that you're after that I have in stock, drop me a message and I'll make sure that I take it along with me. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I haven't been to this one before. It's at the National Motorcycle Museum, and I haven't been to this show before, so I am looking forward to going to the show and seeing what it's like, possibly with a view to doing it in the future. That's another reason for going, is having a look at all these new shows. So I am curious to know what shows you do go to, paper crafting wise, stamping wise. If there's one that you would love Uniko to visit and have a stand at, let me know in the comments and I will look into it. I have been looking at I can't remember the name now, but I know that I'll probably give the wrong letters if I try and give the letters, but they've just had a show in Farnborough this past weekend, and they also do one in Glasgow and the NEC, Exeter. I think that's all the places. So I have been looking into those as well. So if you attend any of those shows and say yes, come on, come there, just let me know in the comments. I'd love to know. And there's probably others that I haven't heard of. But yeah, just give me a shout in the comments, and yeah, you never know. So almost done. It's a little bit easier to cut these shapes. What I found with the stamp is it's slightly obviously on a smaller scale. It was cutting in between like the sets of 4, like separating the little leaves from, like I've done here, I've separated that from there, so it was cutting in between that I found the most difficult. And I'm trying to keep the 4s together so I know roughly that they will fit as a jigsaw. It's a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle. So it's got a bit of a paper piecing feel to this as well, and maybe a decoupage. That's the word I was looking for yesterday and I couldn't find. A little sort of decoupage feel to this card as well. But I'm always trying to look at new techniques. Just adds a little bit of excitement to crafting. If we just stamping and stenciling flat and doing the same things over and over again, it gets a little bit boring, and sometimes we need a little bit different, something a little bit different to make it exciting again. Well, maybe that's just me. I don't know. How about you? Do you like techniques? Do you have a favourite technique? Maybe you know one that I don't. So again, if you've got any favourites, drop them in the comments. I'd love to know. So my other question, while I'm busy cutting out here, is would you like me to go live on social media? For instance, Facebook, Instagram, and craft live? If so, what day is good? And what time it's a difficult one when going live. I've done it a couple of times, and I don't think I'd be as nervous. The thing that makes me nervous is the tech, is making sure that I'm in the right place and that everyone can see me. So when I make a video, obviously it's a little bit easier. I'm not having to worry too much about the tech as much. As you know, I don't really edit my videos, so you find them just as is. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you would like me to go live, if you prefer this type where I record the video and then share it on YouTube. I'm still happy. I will still obviously share live videos as well, because I know that you can save them and then share them at a later date or afterwards, you know, on YouTube. So yeah, I'm just curious, always looking at new ways. I've got tons of things to catch up on and do. I need to sweet talk my husband into helping me with a few things on the website that are still outstanding. But I didn't like to bother him too much in his holidays. He's just gone back this week after 2 weeks off. A much needed and well-deserved break for him. So I didn't want to hassle him while he was off talking shop, even though it was like my website. So when he's settled back in at work and got back on top of his workload a bit more, then I can start asking him to help me with things. Hopefully I'm in view here. Sorry, I forget that I need to show you what I'm doing. So I say this every time when I'm fussy cutting. Good pair of scissors, sharp scissors is what you need. These are the Stampin' Up ones, and ever since I started buying things from Stampin' Up and I found these paper snips, it's what I use now for all my cutting. I find them nice and sharp. This cardstock is their thicker cardstock I'm using because I am almost out of card. I need to do a restock. Normally, if I know I'm fussy cutting, I use their thinner cardstock. I'm not sure of the poundage off the top of my head. But as you can see, I'm using the thicker cardstock here and I'm still getting a nice cut line. It's more about moving the paper rather than the scissors as you're cutting. Obviously you are closing the scissors, but instead of I'm turning the cardstock here as the scissors are closing, and then you get a nice smooth cut line. So instead of sort of like cutting through your card, you're moving the card rather than the scissors. And it just takes, as I say, it just takes practice. I like fussy cutting. I find it relaxing, so it doesn't bother me too much. But I know a lot of people, it's not their favourite things, or when you suffer from arthritis in your fingers and your hands, it's not always great either. I've never used a scan and cut, and I don't know a huge amount about it. Obviously, I can gather that it scans your image and then cuts it. So I'm wondering if you had drawn through a stencil like I have, you could scan it and cut it. The only thing that I'm grey area about is, would it pick up the lines on a pattern piece, but can you pre-draw it, for instance, on a plain piece of paper, scan it, and then it's got the image you want to cut. That's the only other option. If it was able to do that, then you've got the preset of the stencil design drawn, and then you've just using the same thing to then cut it out when you've used the stencil over a pattern, for instance. I'm not sure about that, but it'd be clever if you could do that. Maybe you use a scan and cut and you know the answer to that. Who knows? But even if I had a die to match, you'd still get a bit of an outline. When you cut with a die, it tends to have a border. We'll see. This gets a little bit tricky over the navy blue, but hopefully it'll look good. And the even more fun bit is coming up, where we get to piece this together and build the design. And it's quite a subtle look. You see it more when you look on an angle, but it's fun. It's all about having fun, isn't it? And I think paper crafts is a nice escapism. Especially as the nights are drawing in again. It's nice to escape into the craft room and do a bit of crafting. Though I've got back into my reading recently, this year. I used to read a lot, and then I got out of the habit of reading and probably falling asleep. When the beans were tiny, I'd start reading and then I'd fall asleep. Anyway, I've got back into my reading and I've read 21. Well, I've read more than 21 books, but I've read 21 books in a collection that my friend got me started on at Christmas. The author is called L.J. Ross, and it's like mystery crime thriller, and the stories are based here in the northeast, a little bit further north, sort of Northumberland and Newcastle, and it's basically the inspector is called DCI Ryan, and yeah, I just fell in love with the characters and the story. And I think knowing that the stories were based around here and they're places that I've heard of, it sort of captures your interest a little bit. But I highly recommend. It's a nice, easy read. And yeah, the characters, sort of stay the same. You get to know them. And yeah, it's like a little family, isn't it? So I've got back into my reading this year. I've got a few books on the go at the minute that I'm trying to get back into. It was a little bit harder over the summer, being out and about, and then when I come back on a night after being out with the fellas, that I found I was too tired again and started falling asleep. So now I'm going to bring this bit back out again, and it's all about, do you know what I didn't do? What I did before I actually stamped the block on both. So there, I nearly forgot a step. I was like, how am I going to match this up now? So what I'm going to do, I haven't got my stamp wheel in front of me, but I'm lining my card up, and I didn't rub my pencil marks out. And I still have my stencil. So it's all about getting it centered again. I forgot about this step. until I came to looking at it and thinking, how am I going to match these up and get them exact? So this is what I did with the stamp. I just literally stamped it on both pieces and then cut one out. And this way you can see where the pieces will line up. You could do this with a pencil if you wanted to. So I'm just going round once with my fine liner this time. I'm not trying to get the shape super defined because I'm not cutting out this time. So this is just so you know where each of the leaves will go, and you're not thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to match this up now? So as I say, so it is quite a time consuming card to make, but yeah, it does look cool. And just think of all the different colour combinations you could come up with as well. And I think the fun thing about this, there's not just one occasion you can use these stencils for. They can fit with so many different occasions depending on the colours you use. You could, if you wanted to be super flashy before cutting it out, removing your stencil or whatever, for the cut out pieces, you could easily do some sort of like glimmer paste or sparkly paste, or even emboss through it to add a bit of sparkle interest. That would help it stand out maybe a little bit more as well from the background by adding some sparkle to it, which would be quite fun. So that I've drawn around each of the leaves, and now we can go ahead and use foam adhesive. And the way I did it, so I wasn't like putting them on each tiny piece, I actually put them inside the pre-drawn pieces and then just peeled off the backing when I got to each piece. And hopefully most of the smudge mark will be covered up. It was just me getting overly zealous with my ink blending, I think, today. I'm always conscious that I don't want to do like a super long video that bores you all, but you can speed up. I won't be offended if you speed up this process. Press fast forward. That is absolutely fine by me. So Callie must be napping somewhere today. I'm not sure where she's gone off to. My last video she made a little appearance. Ben, who's Callie's main owner apparently, said that Callie had to make an appearance today in my video, but she's gone off and hidden somewhere. And Jelly got fed up and went back out again because she snuggles with him a little bit, but then she's like all about the play still, and he's like, this is too much for me, I'm off, and goes back out again. But we are making slow progress with them becoming friends, and hopefully sharing the space downstairs on a night in the kitchen and conservatory, because at the minute Callie still sleeps in here in the office, which is fine, but it'd be nice to get my whole office back again soon, without all the kitten supplies. But yeah, she's grown over the summer. She's curious about outside, but and I can leave the door open if I nip outside to do something. 2 seconds. Hopefully this hasn't ruined my video because I now have to piece it together. Apologies for that. I had someone at the door. It's typical, isn't it? I've lost my train of thought now, what I was talking about. Anyway, it's lost my train of thought. Typical when I'm doing something and then someone comes at the door to collect something. And it's not really the weather to leave stuff outside today. So apologies for that, and I apologise if there is a bit of a glitch in the video, as I will now have to piece them together. So I'm starting at the top here, and I'm just working out which piece goes where, but it is quite easy to match them up because we took the time to centralise the stencils on your cardstock. So I'm just matching up the pieces here. It's like doing a jigsaw puzzle. If you like jigsaw puzzles, then this is a good technique as well for the jigsaw lovers. So there's the top piece, and then we'll just go over each side. And this is where it comes in handy to have longish fingernails to peel these backings off. My fingernails, I don't normally have them super long. Trying to work this bit out. I believe it is this one here. So I think this is working out just as good as the stamp. As I say, a little bit quicker with the cutting out. Than it was with the stamp, so I think that's right. Once you put the foam adhesive on, it makes it a little bit trickier as well to see some of the design. But it's matching up nicely. I'm pleased with this. There, so we go to the next one. So, and then at the end of when I've placed them all, I would choose a sentiment and just add it in the middle. But once I've finished, we will compare the two and have a look and see which you like best, whether it's the stenciled version or the stamped version. Curious to know, what colours would you use? Is this sort of your colours that you like, or would you have gone for brights? I'm going with the weather here today. It's so miserable out. I'm not looking forward to the school run, though it looks like I won't be doing the school run for much longer. The boys have requested new mobile phones. They've got mobile phones at the minute, but one has Bagsied, my husband's phone, and the other one wants a similar sort of version, but slightly different. Apple they've got iPhones, and he wants one that is the Pro or something. I don't know the ins and outs of it all, to be honest. But anyway, they've requested new phones, and once they've told me that once they get their new phones, they are happy to walk to school and back from school on their own. So I'll soon be made redundant from that job, which is fine. it'll give me a little bit more time to do some of my jobs and things and get a little bit more work done before they get home. Because it's about when I go out to pick them up from school, obviously I leave a little bit earlier, so all in all it takes about an hour out of my day, which I don't mind the exercise, but it'd be nice to have that a little bit more sort of time back. But yeah, it's just another, oh, they're growing up so fast, isn't it? When you're trying to savor each of the moments with them before they grow up too fast. And yeah, so the boys will soon want to go on their own. It's funny because they're at the age where they do want the independence, but they still want mummy and daddy a little bit as well, which is lovely. It's not all about friends still. They still like a little bit of time with us. They had their friends around quite a bit in the summer holidays, which was nice. They've got a nice little group of friends as well that they hang around with, and that don't live too far either from us. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to going out in this wet weather. I think I'll have to dig out the rain jacket. So what's the weather like where you are? I know there's a few people that are in the southern hemisphere that watch my videos here, so how's the weather for you guys over there? You'll be heading into spring, if I'm correct. Which sounds lovely, doesn't it? Spring for us sounds a long, long way off. Though I don't mind all of the seasons. It's just when it's wet. I don't mind the rain, but it's when you have to go out in it, isn't it? There was a little bit of a smudge mark there, so I was just rubbing it off before it dried. And I'm almost finished. Almost. Just one more square to go. Hopefully no more interruptions. Hopefully, she says. There we go. Now this is the tricky one, I think. Seeing where the dots are. Definitely the trickiest out of all of them. Lining them dots up. Trying to see, I think it's this one here. And this one up here. And there we are finished. And I'll lift it up a little bit closer to the camera and just show you from the side view the dimension, and hopefully you can still see the mod pattern. Obviously this one from yesterday has a sentiment across the middle. I chose a smaller sentiment on purpose so it wouldn't cover up too much of the design, and I added a little trio of enamel dots as well, my favorite. So obviously different colors here, and this color, even though it looks sort of bluey. It's called Rainforest, and it is, I suppose, a bluey green. But yeah, there's a slight size difference as well. The stencil obviously overlaps a little bit more, so if I was to make this and do this card again in this technique, I probably would repeat the Bauhaus block pattern to fill the whole card base, as it is a very similar sort of size. But then again, it's quite nice that it doesn't have much of a border, so yeah, it just adds a different effect. So I'm pleased that both have worked out quite well. Again, I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I appreciate you watching and joining me today. Feel free to put as many comments as you like, as I've asked lots of different questions throughout the video, so you can answer them as you go. And don't forget about the sale over on our website. The sale will end, I believe I put it as the Friday the 13th at midnight. That wasn't in my original email, so I do apologise that I hadn't put an end date, but it'll be Friday the 13th at midnight that it'll end. Was there anything else that I was going to say, because I've said a lot today? I hope that you like and subscribe to the Uniko channel, and I will be back again soon. Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye.